Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floater. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
Yes, it's Friday. We're bringing the boom. We're talking NBA Hardwood show, breaking down only 3 games for a Friday, which is odd. It's definitely not normally like this, but we got 2 games starting at 7 o'clock. Then we got 1 starting at 8. It'll be more of a sprint tonight rather than a long all-night event. So if you want to go out and do something with the wife, seems like a good day to do that. We'll bring in DC again. We're talking NBA. We'll talk a little football up at the top of the show, DC, though, as well for the people. Of course, you're going to want to talk about the Chiefs. I saw our Discord talking about the Chiefs. AP's like, these are the officials that hate the Chiefs the most. There's no excuses, blah, blah, blah. Then we got Jalen Hurts in the injury he's dealing with going up against Jaden Daniels, the rookie. So it's got a lot going on this slate. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to also be weird, like you were talking pre-show. No football on Saturday, only on Sunday. But how are you doing? And are you excited for some football and basketball tonight?
I'm doing well, and yeah, excited. A little hurt by our guy JP84's comment here on my early bedtime. That is kind of true. You kind of nailed it, JP84. So, but yeah, looking forward to the football. Obviously, it's weird, right? Not having football this Saturday, no UFC either. It's a really strange Saturday. I think the weird schedule tonight is probably because of the strange NBA schedule tomorrow too, Mangone, right? We were talking about what the NBA is doing tomorrow. It's like a Christmas Day slate, right? A bunch of games on ABC, ESPN, kind of back to back to back. So short slate tonight.
It's not just that, DC. Sunday, there's only 1 basketball game because obviously the NFL is going to own that day. And then I think the Super Bowl Sunday, there's 3 games. I looked ahead of the schedule. There's 3 games, and they're all in the morning. So they just knock them out. That way nothing's competing with the Super Bowl. So they're definitely planning for the football stuff right now.
It is a little bit of a, you can listen. If you want to play DFS, you can play around the clock if you want to, right? There's always something to play, but like the major stuff, right? Football kind of coming down to a close here, college football. So yeah, a little bit of a transition phase, but the NBA grind never stops. You can keep on going. So we'll try to get to the winners tonight. Last night, Mangone, I know you had a very a strong night overall, but maybe a little bit of a frustrating one, right? I think it's good to talk about some of the stuff where you were smashing and then you didn't have Jokic, right? Who put up what I don't even know what he ended up with, but some monster score. Talk about what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, I was on FanDuel, and like obviously Jokic is harder to get there, and it's always a different construction. On DK, it's easier to get Jokic.
What is he like, $13K on FanDuel, something crazy?
I don't know. He's always really expensive, but it's like not only that, like on DK, the values of like the 3K guys are way more valuable than like a 4K guy. And honestly, the way the night was with how it went, like because Jalen Johnson was 40% owned over there, he actually sunk almost half the field instantly. Where like there were guys on the winning lineup, like Buddy Hield was on the winner with 13 fantasy points. It was like the weirdest night of like scoring.
I started off Williams, Okongwu, and Bruce Brown, who had a big game, were my first 3 early guys. And I was like, all right, this team's cooking. And then
did it crush or no? I guess you didn't have Jokic.
No, it didn't happen at all. No, I didn't have Joker either. So
yeah, I mean, my 3 of my highest owned guys were Okongwu, PJ Washington, and who's the last one? Jalen Williams. Those were like 3 of my highest owned guys. So I knew my night was going to be pretty interesting. You know what did suck? This was the battle. So we talked about it on the show yesterday, and this is something I always like to talk about. I lowered my Quentin Grimes exposure because I just was like, I don't think he's a good play. He's not starting. And I don't know why, but because of that, it gave me way too much Kevin Porter Jr. And I know Chris Dunn was out and all, and I don't know. I just couldn't find a way to get off of him because it was too late.
Yeah, I nailed that, I feel like, last night. I talked about Dallas being kind of a trap, right? Pretty much all those guys ended up busting in that tough game at OKC. So, yeah, good to identify that one. Yeah, I don't know. On tonight's slate, I guess, right?
Yeah, on tonight. I guess before we dive in, let's talk, because we got to wait for some news. Let's talk football this weekend. Let's see. obviously I think you're going to like the Chiefs, but this is a classic spot to see. You can bet the money line. You can grab the Chiefs with the points or without. It's only, I think, 1.5 or so. So I'm sure you'll like them. I'm torn because I told myself that I would not bet against Mahomes basically when he's a dog. Now he's not a dog here. But I do feel like it's like practically like even money. So why not just take Mahomes, right?
Yeah. So I do think the Chiefs are going to win, but I did not get the football weekend right last week, DFS wise. Like I thought the Chiefs offense, Mahomes was going to click, and it was just the same old boring ass Chiefs, right? Just like plodding down the field. Like I got that wrong. And then I also thought the Lions were going to dust the Commanders. Like that did not happen at all. So I don't know how when you get like the weekend before wrong, it's hard to go back and be like, okay, I was wrong about the Chiefs. They're just going to, grind it out, slow game, which I kind of think. But I'm like flip-flopping, right? And I think the Commanders can have a chance against the Eagles, but it's hard to have confidence when you were wrong the weekend before, right?
Yeah, I felt that way going into the I felt that way going into the Vikings-Rams game. I know I had a lot of takes that I had been wrong, like not like lately. So that's why I didn't even like push on the Rams, and I was frustrated. I actually nailed last week. So of course, probably will have a little bit more confidence this week, obviously. I'm with you on that. I mean, my heart wants the Bills, but my head says the Chiefs will just find a way because they always do. And then
this is what happens every time.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, I haven't bet anything on it yet, but I'm just saying that's like where my heart definitely wants the Bills. I love them to circle the wagons, like takedown, saying it'd be obviously fun.
It's gonna be like a Chiefs last second field goal,
Yeah. And then I really want part of me wants the Commanders in there just because I'm not the biggest fan of this Eagles team, and I
want the Commanders as a fan.
Well, here's the other thing. Like Jalen Hurts is like pretty banged up, and like he's kind of like the Russell Westbrook of like the league, where he just plays no matter what, even when he's like actually messed up. Like he's always battling and playing, and like I just don't want him limping into the Super Bowl and being like 70 or 60%, and then it's like a bad Super Bowl. Like that's the real reason. I want there to be, and if you told me Jalen Hurts is 100% going to the Super Bowl, which again, having 2 weeks will, but I'm just not confident that he is okay.
I mean, the Commanders are just way more exciting than the Eagles. I don't know. The young quarterback, Jaden Daniels, what he's doing, he was so awesome in that game against the Lions that it's like, and normally, Mango, you would think it would be like a letdown spot, right, in the regular season maybe, but not in the playoffs. You're not going to have a letdown game going into the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, I like the Commanders to pull the upset. That's what I'm going for anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fun. Also, another bias thing. I'm watching with a Commanders fan this weekend, and he's lifelong friend. He's been
you got to get on the Commanders train.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he told me, he was like, "You're coming over. Well, I'm buying food and drinks. Like it's gonna be a good one." And he's all hyped for it. So it's like I'm obviously gonna root for him. So that's enough NFL. Obviously, we'll have all of the content for you guys for NFL in the Discord. We'll have it on the website as well. We'll have the 2-game slate. I'm sure the showdowns are massive prize pools as well. So we'll have that up, of course. We'll have the 3-max stuff, the cores, every playbook. So be sure to check that out. You can use that code RPS15 for 15% off if you would like. All right, NBA. 3 games today. And we have some pretty big news that could shift the slate. For one, Ja Morant, he is questionable. That is the late game. I am operating that he is out. Like my own self, I am saying he's out. He missed shoot around. Projections will probably not adjust for that until he's officially ruled out, but I'm officially ruling it that way. That's my own personal opinion on how to handle the situation. Then we have a couple other big pieces of news. LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges playing Portland are both questionable. Yes, Seth Curry, I think he's questionable. I saw that pop up, but we don't really care about Seth Curry, right? What we care about is LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, because those are 2 massive pieces of news. The good news is we'll get an update in about 20 minutes. I'd say we don't talk about that game first because we're going to get an update of what's going to happen. That way we don't recycle talking about that game. I think it's kind of pointless.
Let's go back to the initial point you were making with Ja Morant, because I think this is an important one on a 3-game slate. There's time to do something like this. What you're saying, you're not saying that you're certain that Ja Morant is going to sit. what you're saying is the right way to play the situation is as if he sits because you want exposure to these guys who are underprojected, therefore under-owned, right? And if he does play, you'll have plenty of flexibility within that game to move pieces around if you need to, right? That's
and it's a 3-game slate, right? So like, and 2 games will be locked. I will not be able to make my adjustments. So like me personally, I am going to go through and change the projection. I'm going to X out Ja. I'm going to bump up these guys. And of course, if I see I'm getting a little too much of them that I don't like, yes, I can bump them back down. But like, I just think with knowing he missed shoot around, it makes way too much sense to play it, to think he's out. On top of that, they're playing the Pelicans. Like the Pelicans suck. They're like what, like 12 and like 35 or something terrible. Like I could be wrong, but you get what I'm saying. They're like one of the worst. They're a bottom 5 team in the league, and going up against the 3rd team in the West, it makes way too much sense to sit him. Like everything, all the stars are aligning, and then not only that, because of this news that's coming in Charlotte, I think people are just going to play a lot of these early plays, and I want the ability to backload.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I do think, like, just the way the NBA is trending, I mean, more and more players, I assume this is true, sit out every year than the previous year. And when a player misses shoot around with illness, it's like they just don't often play, it seems like, these days. Maybe they used to play more in the past. It seems like that to me anyway. So, yeah, I like that call with Morant.
Here's a good question. So if you were playing a slate where everything locks, right? Like completely, where you can't swap, which I don't know what he's playing, but I know that I'm sure there's those game types around somewhere. I would just play for him being out, right? Because if Ja Morant is in,
then
right?
You're gonna get, I think you're right, Mangone. You're gonna get those players even lower owned than Mangone is, right? Because you just play him that they're out, and if he does play, you're not dead, right?
Correct.
But you're in a really, really good spot if he does sit.
Exactly. So again, I'm adjusting all of my projections as that. When I get off the show, I'm going to make all my adjustments, finalize everything. Of course, there still might be, Charlotte plays might grade out a little bit better. Also, on top of that, if we get these guys ruled out, well, then of course I'm going to get more Bane and Jaren Jackson because now I have more values to fill out my lineups if those guys are out. So that's how I'm playing it. And another thing with the whole like late swap thing is like we don't play like each slate to win, right? We're playing for the long-term gains, right? We're playing for sometimes I'm going to be wrong on a slate, but it's when you're right about something, how much are you going to benefit from that? And like some slates I'm going to guess on it and I might not be right, but percentage-wise, I might get a really big edge by making this decision before other people. I don't know if that's for sure going to happen here, DC, but you get what I'm saying. We're not playing just one slate every single day. We're playing this for like hundreds and hundreds of slates. You know what I mean?
No, I think you are making the correct decision on the Ja Morant thing. I think that is the right thing to do for long-term expected value, right? And I mean, I would tell you if I didn't agree, happy to disagree. So yeah, I do think that is the correct way to play. And yeah, it's a 3-game slate, so we do have time to talk about, kind of the strategy of it. It's, obviously, people love the player takes, but the truth is, a lot of the DFS is the strategy of playing the actual game, right? Not necessarily a lineup in and of itself.
Yes, 1,000%. Let's talk first. Let's talk Philly and Cleveland because I think that's the game with the least amount of news. Also, yes, Caris LeVert, he is questionable, right? That is going to definitely be a big piece because if he misses, you will naturally get values from this team, right? You'll get a Ty Jerome will pop up easily. A Dean Wade might pop up for you. And of course, if we don't get Charlotte values, then yeah, these guys are going to pop up even more, especially if you don't adjust your projections. You'll get a Georges Niang a lot and like a Max Strus. So trying to dissect that is tough. For me, I mean, if Caris LeVert misses, I'm not slamming these values. I think Max Strus and Ty Jerome would be the 2 that I like the most. You can make the case it gives a bump to Donovan Mitchell and Garland, especially with no Evan Mobley being there. Jared Allen is at 6.9K. He's definitely still a little bit cheap. And then, of course, we got the Sixers. We know they're missing guys. They're going to be missing Drummond and Embiid. And with them missing them, Yabusele's probably going to play the 5 a little bit more. Maybe they play Bona some. I would assume Bona plays, but I don't love him as a value. Of course, Paul George and Maxi's usage if they can keep this game close. But the question is, can they keep this game close? I think that's going to be a big decision point for people on this slate. Because listen, if the Sixers get blown out, you're not getting that fourth quarter run, right? Then Maxi's in trouble. Then Paul George is in trouble. So I do think that is a little bit of a big decision when you're building this slate. How are you building it for blowout, not for blowout? So, DC, talk about how you're going to handle the LeVert news and then go through how you're handling this game.
I mean, a 3-game slate, like there are multiple ways to play it. And even, within a set of lineups, you could play it different ways. You could certainly game stack this game, right? Especially if LeVert misses, you could play, I think you could easily, if you wanted to, play 3 or 4 pieces from Cleveland potentially could get there on a 3-game slate. And then on Philly, they're shorthanded, so they could do the same thing. This game could absolutely be high scoring if Philly's able to keep pace. So it is kind of a game where I think you want to be in or out. Obviously, Mangum, you're going to go the Memphis route, right? So you're going to be lower on this game, I'm sure, than the field will be. And I don't disagree with that, but I do, there are interesting plays in this game, I think. Curious your thoughts on Jarrett Allen. He's got to get more minutes, right? With Mobley out, his backup is Tristan Thompson. I know it doesn't always happen, but like in a close game, there's just no way you're riding Thompson out there for big minutes when you've got Jarrett Allen sitting on the bench. So I do like him quite a bit, 6,900.
In a close game, I agree. The one counter you can make is if the game does get out of hand, right? You could see it get situational, but obviously we don't know what it's going to do. Also,
I feel like you'd be a guy who'd benefit, like gobbling up rebounds, right? If they can't make a shot, I don't know. I feel like he could almost get there early.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning this is the front end of a back-to-back for Cleveland, and they play Houston tomorrow. Definitely, I could see if they get out ahead big and the Sixers suck, I could see them lean off their guys. I don't know if that's going to happen. Right? I don't know what the final score of the game is going to be, but that is another variable that I think should be added into some of your decision making.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that.
The other teams that are on back-to-backs, I'll say that. Front end of a back-to-back for Memphis, that's another one to note. New Orleans, let's see. Do they play tomorrow? I do not see the Pelicans on the schedule tomorrow. And also keep in mind, you could easily play New Orleans options if the Memphis stuff doesn't go your way. That's definitely someone that you could get to. Charlotte and Portland, do any of them play tomorrow? Charlotte actually does. They play New Orleans, so I missed that. They play, and then is there any other team? Portland. I think Portland's the only team that does not have a back-to-back. So there you go.
Is the Grizzlies game tomorrow one of the nationally televised ones?
The Memphis game is not. They're playing Utah. It's in Memphis, so it's not like a big deal.
I was wondering if maybe the Ja Morant was even likely more to happen, right? If it's a big game tomorrow or something like that, but it doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's only a Utah game. It's at home, but it's Utah, so it's not.
I think you're right, though. I bet he sits and plays tomorrow.
Yeah, and honestly, I could easily see Ball or Bridges were both sitting. I could easily see either of them sit because they have a game tomorrow, right? That's a whole other factor kind of to call out there. So definitely something to think about. Yeah, I agree with you on Jarrett Allen, though. Naturally, he's just going to get more minutes, right? His minutes floor is just a lot stronger in this spot as long as it stays close. So I'm with you. At 6'9", I do think he's a good play. Donovan Mitchell at 8'3", that does feel cheap. We know he has upside. We could see him and Maxey dueling and going back and forth. The one thing I don't think I heard you talk about is, let's say LeVert is out, right? And we don't know what's going to happen. We'll get the update maybe in 10 minutes, but how are you handling the LeVert stuff? For me, it's Ty Jerome and probably Ty Jerome and Max Struss, but I lean Struss 1 and then LeVert 2. And then, of course, there's Dean Wade and Niang. Those guys will pop up as well. Is that kind of some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Jerome is one of those – these backup point guards who are actually good and get secure minutes. They're oftentimes good plays. Like Bruce Brown last night, right? 3,900, and he's going to get 25 minutes out there. I think Jerome kind of falls into that bucket where he's just a good, safe value. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to play him with the other Cleveland guys, even if LeVert is out, but I do like Jerome. And then, I think Struss kind of always has a little bit of hidden upside, right? With the ability to get hot from three, make 5 or 6 of them, something like that. So, yeah, agree with those two calls for sure.
Yep, with you on that. And again, we'll get an update in 10 minutes on that. We obviously are going to get a Ball and Bridges update here shortly, which I should pull up the tab on my other screen. So I'll pull that up now. That way we got it so I can tell you the news right when it comes. Do you have any final thoughts on this game, DC, or do you want to shift over and talk about the Pelicans and Memphis?
Yeah, we can move.
Cool. Let's talk about Memphis first. So Ja Morant is 9K. Obviously, yes, if he plays, he could easily be on the winner. He could be the raw points, blah, blah, blah. I think he misses. And because I think he misses, we got to figure out who the point guard is going to be at this spot. Now, we have seen times where Scottie Pippen starts at the point guard spot. We have also seen recently where Luke Kennard started at point guard. I'm leaning they go with Kennard over Pippen at the point guard spot. Obviously, I can adjust my lineups. It's not that big of a deal. Their price is 4-5 and 3-7, but I'm leaning with that. I do think Scottie Pippen, you look at his minutes, he's been getting between since probably last 2 weeks, he's been getting between 13 and 19. Obviously, it would jump up some, maybe to those low 20s, but yeah, the coach, like the chat said, they're just not giving Pippen the work. They're going with Luke Kennard, and I think that has to do with some of the ball handling you're seeing from a lot of these other guys, right? You're seeing it from Bane. You're seeing it from Jaren Jackson. Of course, Zach Edey will get some usage funneled his way, which you could make the case Zach Edey definitely is not a bad option to get to. Of course, this Pelicans team, they have gotten a little bit healthier. They are missing Zion and Ingram in this game. They got Murray, Murphy, CJ McCollum. Misi will likely start. Of course, you got an Alvarado off the bench. So, listen, if the Ja Morant news doesn't go my way, I could switch to a Jose Alvarado at low ownership at 3.8K, who I know can pop off in certain spots. So, there's a lot of different ways that we can go with this one, DC. For me, though, I'm ranking it. I think Jaren Jackson and Bane are 1 and 2 for me. I technically lean Jackson over Bane, mainly because he's got the flexibility of power forward and shooting guard. And I like his stock upside, specifically on a site like FanDuel. And, of course, Aldama's questionable as well. Another guy who's going to be back that we should talk about is I think Gregory Jackson, could get a little bit more run. He's played 12 and 10 minutes in his last 2 games. Maybe this is the game where he spikes up to 20 minutes. I'll have to see what the coach says, but he's definitely someone at 3K. I don't think he's out of play because he's 3K. On top of that, Luke Kennard, 4.5K. I think he is the better value between Jalen Wells and Luke Kennard. I'd be curious to get your take on that one, DC.
Yeah, the spread of 11.5. I mean, I do think that's a fair point in the stance that Ja might play. But yeah, if he is out, if Ja is out, I mean, you got to like these Memphis guys, right? I think you're onto the right path here. I don't know if it would be Kennard or Pippen who started. Again, it sounds like you think it kind of a coin flip.
I think so. My lean is Kennard just because one, it happened recently, and I think with the construction of their team and the usage that's going to be funneled, it makes sense to have more of that shooter. And here's the second thing: if you just look at pricing, Luke Kennard is 4.5, and Scottie Pippen's 3.7. Right? It just gives me more salary, so I'd rather use the guy that's more expensive for my salary. Does that make sense?
I think so. I agree with JP84 here, though. I think Pippen's a good player, right? I know he's kind of fallen out of favor, and I know he might not start in this game, but he's had some big games. He can, even off the bench, right? He could go off for 35 fantasy points, no question about it. So, yeah, I would almost, I guess maybe it doesn't matter because it's the last game and you can't swap anyway. But yeah, I'm in on Pippen, Kennard. We saw Jaren Jackson, right, have a number of huge games in a row when Ja was out. It sounds like, Mango, you're going to have a lot of Memphis and then maybe flip some of that Memphis over to New Orleans if Ja plays. Is that kind of the general plan? It sounds like it.
Yeah, that feels like the plan, right? I can easily change some stuff over. I can move the Banes and the Jaren Jacksons over to some of these more expensive Pelicans, right? I can flip them over to a DeJounte Murray, a Trey Murphy, a CJ McCollum. I'll have the ability to. And, of course, I'll have enough roster spots where I'm able to move it around.
By the way, you're not playing GG Jackson. Get out of here with DG Jackson. He's going to play 4 minutes.
On FanDuel, I won't. But I don't think it's out of the question. If you
have You have like a legit shot at taking a 0 in his 10 minutes. Like he does nothing.
No, I mean, I would have to get an update that he is going to play more minutes. Like if it's Anthony
4.5 and 5.25 in his 2 games so far. You can't play GG Jackson here. Come on.
I mean, it's a 3-gamer. I just don't think you can get it's not the craziest thing. Like if they're missing Aldama, let's just think it through. So it's a 3-game slate. So if they're missing Aldama and Jackson, Bain, Kennard, Wells, and Edey, and then their bench is Scottie Pippen, Brandon Clark, John Conchar, and then
that's enough. That's 8 guys. They don't need them.
No, but Memphis goes deeper. They go 9 to 10.
You don't want the 9th or 10th guy, man. You don't want the 9th or 10th guy off the bench. Like that's not. No way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's – I'm not saying it's happening in this game. Maybe it's tomorrow when they play Utah. But I'm just saying he's going to get unleashed at some point. At some point he's going to. That's all.
There's no unleashing GG Jackson. That's not a thing.
They like him way more than you think. I don't think – they are planning on using him.
AP knows. You're on – take an L here, Mango. You get GG Jackson off your rosters.
Again, I will not play him on FanDuel because he doesn't fit the construction. On DK, I guess – let's see. Are there any expensive guys you really are going to need? You probably don't need expensive guys on this slate, so maybe it's fair. I'm just saying he's 3K. That's all I'm saying. It's cheap. Right. So he is on.
Probably going to smash now.
Yeah. Let's get back on track. Let's talk about the Pelicans a little bit. So Trey Murphy's 8.2K, which feels expensive, but he has clearly flashed the upside. Obviously, he can make a lot of sense here. I lean CJ McCollum over DeJounte Murray just because, man, CJ has been filling it up and he's been shooting a ton. He's also cheaper, but I think both are pretty good plays. I like them as pivots. Like if you look at their prices, 8.4 and 7.6, and you compare it to having to pay like 10K for Maxey, like I don't know, man. I kind of like these Pelicans a little bit, and I hope they can battle to make it closer, especially if a Ja Morant is out. So what is your take on the Pelicans' expensive options?
I'm with you. I think this is the game. I think you're onto the right path here. I'm going to join you in mostly stacking this one up. I know the Memphis is big favorites, but sometimes you got to look, does the other team still have good players? And with the Pelicans, yeah, you're right. Like Murray, McCollum, and Trey Murphy is you can compete, right? You can score. You're going to bomb away from 3. So yeah, I think this game could be really good. Are you mostly sticking to the studs here? I would imagine, right? The big 3, Murphy, McCollum, and Murray, and then
yeah, mainly that. Like you could make the case. You could argue. I don't think Messi is great here, but I guess if you were playing Scottie Pippen and you were Ja was in, then you go to Alvarado, right? But you're not messing with these cheap options, I don't think.
Yeah.
Unless Ja gets ruled in, right? And then you're okay, maybe Alvarado can play the 22-minute game and spin together 30 DK points.
Yeah, you don't want to play these cheap guys unless you're getting down to the GG Jackson level, and then you're including everybody. So they're in too. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't like a lot of these cheap options. It's going to be tough. You're not playing Daniel Tice, I don't think, even though he played 37 minutes against. You love Daniel Tice. Don't write him off so easily. Get him in there.
I can't believe he played 37 minutes, and then not only that, he only put up 21 DK points, which is pretty wild.
He must have been so tired. 37 minutes.
Yeah, he played 37 minutes against Utah. That's crazy.
I bet he was exhausted.
Let's see. We're starting to get some news. At least my phone's buzzing, which means there should be some news coming in. It could be useless news. Let's see. Oh, it's some useless news on the Nets, so that's not great. Yeah, still nothing there. All Saturday news, of course. We'll keep waiting for that. I don't think there's anything else to talk about.
I wish they didn't give notifications for the next day.
I know.
Just know tomorrow. It's all good.
I guess one more guy we haven't talked about, and our guy Steve Boynton is in the chat, so we gotta mention it. What do you do with Zach Edey on a 3-game slate at 4K, especially if John misses? There is a little bit more usage to go around, and the Pelicans, they are willing to play big, right? They want to play the Messi and Daniel Tices. They don't want to go small ball. They don't have Zion. So, I am curious if Zach Edey at 4K becomes intriguing to you.
No. Every day I sort SaberSim by value. There's Zach Edey hovering near the top. And I say no every day to Zach Edey. No, this guy, I know Boynton loves him. Every time I watch him, he's a big stiff out there, never does anything. I'm off the Zach Edey train, man, going. He's all yours. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting there, but I'm just asking. So I figured it was worth the question.
And this game should be fast-paced too, right? Like Zach Edey is not the player. If this game gets going, he's not the guy you want.
Sure, but I know they're not going to play small. Like, I guess they could go JRE at the 5, the Pelicans, maybe. They could go like JRE, Javonte Green, Murphy, McCollum, and Murray. Like, I guess they could do that. And maybe they could go Alvarado. I mean, if you want to put Jaren Jackson at the 5, I guess your counter would be going with JRE because, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think it through, right? It's not –
Gigi Jackson plays whatever position he pleases. He's the man out there when he gets the ball. He's just a wing, right? Gigi just kind of.
Yeah, he's like a point forward, I guess, is what you'd call it.
He's not playing any point forward today.
Yeah, probably not tonight as much. But De'Aaron Fox is questionable for Saturday. I don't care. Give me the news. It's at the hour and a half mark. I want the news.
What's the biggest piece of news you want right now?
I want Ball and Bridges, right? Because we're about to talk about that game. I mean, that's just a huge piece of news because that's going to shift.
Let's talk about the Portland big man situation. Yesterday, right, Robert Williams, we talked about it on the show. I thought he was the easiest play on the slate. Absolutely smashes. No doubt about it. And then today he's out. Ayton's still out. It's going to be Klingon who gets to start. 4K. I think it's almost as easy as yesterday, Mangone. You just jam in Klingon in there, right?
I mean, I want to go back and look at the rotations. Why did Jabari Parker crush the first half? Like, he absolutely dominated. I don't know if you noticed, but I posted it in the chat. He was like the highest scoring player at halftime.
I missed the Jabari Walker 12-point outburst.
No, it wasn't. I mean, he had
22. Like 22, so it couldn't have been that many.
Yeah, but it was in 19 minutes. So it was like, and I think the other thing too is I think on FanDuel it was he had 6 steals, so that adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So he was at 29, and they gave him an extra steal that he wasn't supposed to have. So
he got 6 steals and only managed 22 fantasy points. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, it was weird that he played the 19 minutes and he had such a good first half and then really didn't play much. We did just get some news on Chris Murray. He is available. Klingon available, Kamara available, Simons available. So those are pieces of news that we were waiting on. I'm with you. I think it's Klingon, right? We know the Charlotte matchup. The Charlotte matchup is clearly going to be a spot where we target with big men all season long. For the rest of the year, we're going to target him, of course. Another guy to mention, and I think Portland is going to play Klingon a bunch. Mark Williams is 7.8K. I know that feels expensive, DC. It feels expensive. But on this slate, where we kind of talked about it before, I don't think we need those 3K values, right? We don't have that many expensive options. It feels like we're living more in that 8K range. Why wouldn't I play Mark Williams? I mean, he put up in his last 4 or 5 games, he has 52 or more DK points. Played against Phoenix, Utah, Chicago, Dallas, and Memphis. I mean, it's been impressive what he's doing. They just traded away Nick Richards. They traded him away for a reason. 7-8 feels expensive for Mark Williams, but not for me. I'm definitely playing some Mark Williams. I do think he is a good play.
What do you think about this matchup with Klingon? Klingon's like a giant, right? He's like 7'2", 280.
Yeah. He's another Steve Boynton guy that he's a big stiff that can move in college but can't move as much in the pro.
I wonder if Williams kind of owns this kid. I mean,
Klingon's definitely good inside, right? Like his shot blocking ability will be good and everything, but Mark Williams is a stud, right? Like this. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Mark Williams produces like winning basketball. I'm just talking about putting up fantasy points. Like he's going to be
he's a beast.
Yeah, he's going to put up points inside, and I do think Mark Williams is a pretty good play. Obviously, there's a lot of these Portland guys are in. Denny Avdia is another guy to mention at 7K. We know he's flashed some upside. He's flashed 40-point games. At 7K, I think he's another good option that we can get to. I don't mind him. I like him more than I like Anthony Simons, who clearly feels like he's taken a step back this year. Hasn't been great. Not only that, it's just a crowded backcourt, right? If Scoot doesn't get in foul trouble, it could be a Scoot game, right? It could randomly be a Delano Banton game. I do feel confident in Denny Avdia getting his minutes and getting his run. So for me, DC, I think Denny is probably my second favorite Portland Trailblazer. I'd be curious how you kind of pick between Kamara, Sharp, Simon, Scoot, and all these options.
I definitely play less Portland than the field does. So this isn't a team that I go to all that often, just because it's hard, right? With all these guards and Sharp, Simons, Henderson, to me, it's kind of hard to pick Banton. It's hard to pick between them. And so I often just, I don't do the mass multi-entry. So I oftentimes don't end up going to these guys too often. So I haven't watched that much Portland, but when I do, Avdija seems like their best player, right? Kind of the guy who's like needs to be out there, and the guards rotate on a nightly basis, kind of depending on who's playing the best. So I like the Avdija call. I do agree, especially in this type of matchup. I think he could get hot. He seems expensive at 7K, but yeah, I do kind of like that call. And then I don't think I'm going to end up on the Portland guards much, just because I'd rather wait for the Memphis guys, right, who are much, much cheaper. So probably not going to end up on a ton of those guys myself.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, fire them in the chat. Obviously, we got to stall some time. Not only that, Sick of Obama says the ball news is probably still an hour out. Sick of Obama, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we'll get an update. Now, the update might just be questionable again or game time decision, but we'll get an update so I can at least, figure some stuff out or at least kind of make a plan. We always get an hour and a half update. We just got the Portland news. I assume the Charlotte news is coming mainly because the coach is probably stepping up to the mic and talking about it here shortly. So waiting for the update at least. We did get starters for Portland. They're starting Simons, Kamara, Denny, Grant, and Klingon. Is there any interest in a Jeremy Grant? I know he is. I think he's just waiting to get traded. I assume they're going to try to trade him somewhere over the break. 5.4K. I don't think he's just like a guy that's going to break the slate. I mean, I'm not interested in Jeremy Grant. How about you, DC?
I don't know. I mean, he's probably going to get 35 minutes against Charlotte, right? And he's like a good player. I'm with you. He doesn't seem like he's clearly not the long-term answer. And on the trade market. So that worries me, but he's like a last guy in, right? If you've got that salary and you just need to put the team together, he's probably going to give you close to 30 fantasy points at 5,400. So yeah, not a slate breaker, but on a 3-game slate, you don't necessarily need all, right? Sometimes a solid value can be enough on a shorter slate.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's the case I always make for Tobias.
I agree his upside is low, but I do think his floor is pretty damn high.
That's fair with the minutes he's seeing. Yeah. Question in the chat, Murray or Mitchell in single entry? My lean is Murray, but listen, Mitchell feels safer. I think Mitchell's safer, but Murray, I kind of lean into his upside more just because I think that game blows out a little bit. And I want to lean into that last game. What's your thoughts, DC?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's close between the two. I do think there's a number of pretty solid ways to play this slate. Wouldn't really talk anybody off of Mitchell or Murray, but I do lean Murray. I'm with you there.
Yeah, Klingon starting BG3. I'll tell you this. You said, would you play Klingon and Williams? I believe you mean Mark Williams, not Robert Williams, because Robert Williams is out. I assume that's what you're thinking. Yeah, you could easily play both in the same lineup. I think that's perfectly fine way to go. Klingon's definitely an elite value on this slate. And then Mark Williams, like I said, I think he's a really good play at 7.8K. I could see these guys just battling. And honestly, it might not be bad to play both together because if Williams plays like 36 minutes, well, what do you think the other team's going to do, right? They're going to kind of match with the same big man, right? They're going to put Klingon out there to match his minutes. I'm kind of assuming that. What about you?
Klingon goes for blocks.
Yeah.
Seems like he could get in foul trouble pretty easily in this game, honestly.
He definitely could get into foul trouble. I agree 1,000%. That's why I don't think, I said this on the last slate, and I know he got there in steals, but I basically said, with Robert Williams, I'm like, dude, they're going to play. They could easily play Duop Reith or Jabari Walker, and I wouldn't be surprised, right? There is a little more unknown with it where if the game goes one way, that's why I thought when Jabari Walker was smashing, I thought they'd lean into him, but they didn't. So maybe that does make Klingon a little more secure, but it's just something to think about with the foul trouble.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I don't think you're really playing Klingon for the security. But, I mean, there's just not that many 4K players he could easily put up, 35, if the game goes his way. So it's just hard to find that upside at that price.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with you there. I just thought we'd get some update now. I guess we just start talking about it, DC. let's talk about the Charlotte side a little bit.
Doesn't seem like it's coming. You seem confident we were going to get it, but
we always get it. We always get an update at that hour and a half mark. I mean, it's lingering. It's just if we don't get one in like 5 minutes, I would be pretty surprised because we always get one update. But
it's usually just that they're still questionable.
Yeah, but again, it's an update. It's an update.
It's not really an update. If they go from questionable to questionable.
I at least because I know I'm not going to get the news for another hour, so I know how to kind of use.
I got you. It's information. Yeah.
It's information that you can use however you want. So, I know I don't need to sit around for an hour. Basically, I know. Okay, we'll probably get this in like 40 minutes or.
You make your run to Chipotle. You got some time.
Yeah, that's not the worst idea. I could hit some Chipotle, but. Busy talking about the show again. Fire your questions into the chat, and we'll obviously talk about it. Let's talk about Charlotte though a little bit here. They're obviously missing Brandon Miller. The two guys that are getting the usage are Ball and Bridges. Minutes are really consistent. I don't know if you saw this, DC. This could be a little bit of a narrative. LaMelo Ball. I'm not gonna say all-star snub, but he's not a starter right now, and he got a lot of votes. I think he was third in votes from the fans, but he did not get the starting spot. Someone else took his spot. So
good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he deserves it, but I think he deserves to be an all-star, but I don't think he deserves to be a starter. So
I'm writing down in my little notepad here to play Ball in the all-star game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's snubbed.
Yeah. I mean, he was third. I think it was, let me see. I just came across my time. He was third in like fan votes. So like the fans clearly wanted him in, right?
He's gonna launch it from 3 as soon as he gets in that game.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. So yeah. LaMelo Ball, I don't know if there's a little narrative there. Of course, you got Bridges. He's obviously at the power forward spot, 7.4K. Of course, I would rather play more Jaren Jackson for more money, but Bridges isn't a bad play. He feels like kind of pretty safe and consistent. I think it's a good spot for Bridges at 7.4K. I just need this news, right? Obviously, Cody Martin, he is going to be in. I never like to play Cody Martin, but he's 3.9K. Seth Curry's a 3K option that you can go to if you want to, DC. It's tough to know what to do without the news, though, right? What's your thoughts here on the Charlotte situation?
So one thing, I mean, Jeremy Grant, right? He's a good player, not the best for DFS, but one of the things he does well is like defends well. I think maybe not the best matchup for Miles Bridges to have a ceiling game, right? It seems more that it would lean to LaMelo. So, yeah, I'm on the LaMelo side between those two. I'm okay playing them together, but not something I necessarily want to do. I like the LaMelo Mark Williams combination. I know it's expensive, but there's value on this slate, and you could see a lot of easy alley-oops, right? Especially if Klingon gets in foul trouble, something like that. You can see those two cleaning up together. So I like LaMelo, Williams, and then I don't love the value, but obviously we got to see who's out for Charlotte.
Yeah, we do have to see that. Of course, Nick Smith Jr., he's mentioned in the chat, he would be a great play if LaMelo's out. I mean, I still think he's actually not a bad play, right? I assume he's going to get the start unless they went with Curry. But they've been playing him a bunch, and he's played 31, 30, 26 minutes, and he's played really well, and especially against this Portland team that they're willing to go pretty guard heavy, right? We've seen that at times. I think Nick Smith Jr. is a pretty good value. How do you rank him versus like a Klingon in this spot?
I mean, Smith's getting the minutes. And like you said, guard heavy team in Portland that plays generally pretty small, right? It's like just the one big man on the court at any time. And even that could change potentially tonight. So I'm with you. I think Smith Jr. makes a lot of sense. And he's got the 3-point upside is one thing that I really like to look for with these cheap guys, because that's how you can really rack up the points, right? Bombing away from 3. Nick Smith could do it. Seems like a good game for him. I like that call.
Yeah, I think Nick Smith Jr. is definitely good. And I agree with like the correlation you said. Like, I mean, if LaMelo goes off, Mark Williams is probably getting a shit ton of minutes, right? Like, it just kind of makes sense. So
I think those two are pretty tied together. I like it.
Yeah. By the way, Kenny Atkinson said that Max Struss is going to remain in the starting lineup like the last few games. Max will be starting against Philly. So I guess we could circle back to that a little bit. He's obviously an interesting value. He's the same price as like a Nick Smith Jr. A little bit of different positions, shooting guard and small forward, but he's 4.3K. Does this make Max Struss a better play for you, DC? I mean, I liked him before. I mentioned he was my favorite value on Cleveland, but what?
I don't think it changes much for Struss's projection, right? He's probably just going to play his 25, maybe 30, right? You're thrilled with 30 minutes for Max Struss. Whether he's coming off the bench or starting, I don't think it really matters. One thing it will do for sure is increase his ownership, right? No question about it. His ownership goes up significantly now that he's in the starting lineup. So what do you do in a situation like that where you kind of liked him and now he's in the starting lineup, which, in theory, would make you like him more unless you kind of subscribe to what I'm saying, where ownership's going to go up, projection doesn't change all that much.
Yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, I would rather play I think I'd rather Nick Smith Jr. and Klingon as a value. I would rather Luke Kennard as a value.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I thought he was fine before, but the more we talk about it, I just think there's better values on this slate than Max Struss. If someone played Max Struss as the last guy in, I wouldn't call them an idiot or anything.
No, totally fine play. It's just interesting that I do think he is a worse play now that he's in the starting lineup for the reasons we talked about. What are your thoughts on this? Pippen and Kennard in the same lineup. I personally think you can do this just fine. A big part of the reason why is because they're both cheap, right? They just have to do less to get there together. Whereas, when you start getting up that 5-6K range and one of them's coming off the bench, much tougher. Your thoughts on Pippen and Kennard, same lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get away with it, but I'll just say this. If I'm watching the game and I'm tracking it and I'm looking at the minutes and I'm oh, they're not both on it. I get why they're not, but I think you can get away with it. Of course, if you're doing that, I assume it's because you want studs from that game, right? You probably are game stacking it where you want a Bane and a Jaren Jackson, and then you want a Murray. So I assume that's some of the reason why people would do that. Right?
I think why couldn't you play those two together with Mark Williams start? I think that's fine.
Yeah, I guess you could. It's definitely not the worst thing. There's definitely other ways you can.
Yeah, Ty Jerome change anything? I mean, we knew he was coming off the bench. Nothing really changes for me there.
I would need LeVert out officially. I don't know if he's out yet. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
That's
yeah,
that's the key. And honestly, I kind of think LeVert is in because why is Kenny Atkinson making this announcement, right? It seems like it's.
I think LeVert's probably going to play. I think you're right.
That's what I think. I think LeVert ends up playing, and I mean LeVert off the bench if he's going to be unowned at 4K. I kind of like him more than Struss. Does that make sense, DC?
Makes perfect sense because the ownership flips when one guy's in the starting lineup, and if you really don't think their minutes projection changes much because of the starting lineup flip, which is what I tend to think, then yeah, you want the lower owned guy whose projection didn't change.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, definitely going to be lower on someone like Struss now. It seems like I said, I'm assuming LeVert is in. Of course, we still do not have the news. We have none of the news. So I was wrong, DC. You got to take your L's. I'm taking my L on the news coming. It just hasn't
came.
It's
you to take an L. It's good to see you take one once in a while, man. Go.
You gotta take it. So I still haven't taken the Gigi Jackson one yet. Maybe at the end of the show. But we are getting too close to the end of the show. I don't think there's too much else that we can mention. Is there anything we missed so far, DC?
I think we pretty well covered this short 3-gamer. Yeah, I think we're good.
Actually, we could cover this just because we don't have the news. What do we do with Micic? Because if Ball is out, Micic starts, right? 1,000%. Unless they could go Nick Smith Jr. at the point guard spot, and they could slide in a Curry at the 2, a Cody Martin at the 3. They could do that. But what are you doing with Micic if Ball ends up getting ruled out?
What I'm going to do is I'm not going to play Micic. If there's time to adjust and time for the hordes of people that will sign up to play Micic, right? At 3,400, everybody's going to play him if Ball is out. He'll be like 70% owned in single entry.
No, he will. It'll be most builds will start with Micic and Klingon, right? That'll be
I'll play Nick Smith instead. Is what I'm going to do. Now, is that the right advice? I don't know, but it is what I'm going to do on my one team. I'll commit to it right now, Mango. And I don't need to see the updated projections to commit to the Micic fade. I'm good with it.
Yeah, and then, of course, the pivots off him, if you think he just doesn't get minutes, it'd be Wong and Simpson. But I think Nick Smith Jr.
I'm tired of watching Micic. You watch this guy play, it's so tilting.
I've seen it. The reason I ask is, people will be in the Discord chat going, oh, chalk Micic, what do we do? It's a big conversation. So it's kind of why I asked it, because
doesn't it feel good when you fade them and they like brick their first 2 threes and get taken out of the game with no fan? Maybe a turnover in there. Feels so good.
It's the best feeling, but the problem is he's 3-4, right? He's not like 4-5 or 5K. Like 3-4 is definitely a tougher fade.
Every time I play Micic, I turn usually these shows are up to lock, and it's Charlotte. They play first, so you turn on the game. And I'm sweating Micic, and I like make it like not even to the end of his first rotation before I've like looked for another game to watch. That's the Micic experience for him. I'm with you, Spizzlewolf.
Yeah, 1,000%. Klingon or Williams will be the FanDuel route. Yeah, I would tend to agree on FanDuel. You're probably going to lean into that route a little bit more. Let's get to plays of the day, DC. It's hard with ownership, right? It's hard to give out like a low-owned play. But I'll pull up ownerships really quick. Do you have a play ready to go?
Not exactly, but no. You know what? I'll go with my man Scottie Pippen. Wouldn't necessarily love playing him if Ja's out, if Ja's in rather. But if Ja's out, I think Pippen 3,700, even coming off the bench, I think he's going to have a good game here.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to go with. I really like Mark Williams. I know he's not going to be unowned, right?
This is a good play of the day, Mango. I give you shit when you throw a Tobias Harris or a Daniel Tice at us, but yes, Mark Williams. That's a strong play of the day.
Yeah, I think Mark Williams is going to have a monster game, so I am in the Mark Williams camp today. I will be loading up on him. I'll be raising his projection along with the Memphis situation. Like I said, I am operating under Ja Morant being out. That is how I am handling this slate. DC, I guess for people that showed up late, I think it's Luke Kennard. I think you think it's more Scottie Pippen. I think both are solid plays. Is there anyone else that you think it's a really good bump with the Memphis situation to kind of like tie a bow on this one?
I think those two are the biggest by far. Jaren Jackson would be the third for me. And I don't necessarily think Pippen's going to start, but I like him anyway if Ja's out, even off the bench at 3,700. I guess is the bigger point. And I like Kennard too. I think both those guys would have good games in that scenario.
And not only that, there's the out of this game is, again, first night of a back-to-back. I could see someone like a Pippen closing out the game instead, right? If they're up a bunch, they're playing the Pelicans. You never know. Again, this Pelicans team, they are still banged up. They're a little better than they were, but they're still not a good basketball team at the end of the day right now. So it is what it is. So we got the plays of the day. We did everything else. We just don't have the news. So we might have to shut this thing down, DC. Without getting the news. That's why you got to sign up and be in the Discord. Great reason why to get on over and be a member at Run Pure Sports. Use that code RPS15 for 15% off. Also, hit that like and subscribe to the channel to see when we go live. DC, final thoughts before we get on out of here.
Short and quick slate, but hopefully a profitable one. So, yeah, good stuff today.
Yeah, I like this slate. I think there's an edge. I think the edge is making the adjustments with the Memphis stuff, being a little heavier on that game. That's how I'm attacking this game for sure. And we made it 53 minutes. Hopefully Big T is not too mad about it. And if he is, Big T, you weren't here, so I really don't care. And we started the show on time as well. That's another thing too. They always start the show 10 minutes late, DC. We could have started the show 10 minutes late and then got on out of here and it looked like we went an hour, right? We're not deceptive like that, DC, correct?
Well, this is a bad strategy, ending the show, just firing shots for no reason. There was no need for that, Mango.
You gotta fire him because I know he's not watching right now. I know Big T is not in the comments watching, so you gotta fire him when they're not looking. That's the way to do it. So, nope, no more notifications. So we're getting out of here without the news. Sorry, guys. We'll be in the Discord chat to break that all down for you. We'll have the cores up, the playbooks up. You can check that out. The heat map, everything for you guys over at Run Pure Sports. But for me, Mango and DC, I'll see you guys later.